He heard the gunfire before he saw the flash. Captain Reed leaned over the bridge railing as black speedboats closed in, their engines howling against the storm. The first RPG streaked past his line of sight, missed. Seconds later, the USCGC Sentinel opened up with its .50 caliber. By the time Navy SEALs dropped onto the deck, the sea had turned into a battlefield. What happened in those 10 minutes became a model for how America responds when its citizens are in danger far from shore. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The storm masked their approach. 5 black speedboats sliced through the Caribbean swells, their engines echoing beneath the thunder. Aboard the luxury cruise liner MV Seabourn Spirit, passengers gathered on observation decks to watch the lightning until radar alarms replaced music from the main lounge. Each boat moved fast, nearly 40 knots, closing the gap as the rain thickened and the ship's radios began to crackle into static. The lights on the bridge flickered, and Captain Thomas Reed steadied himself against the control panel, watching as 5 signals appeared on his radar screen, each signal representing more than 24 armed men. The attackers belonged to the Black Reef faction, a well-funded pirate network led by Rafael El Tiburon Serrano. They had built an empire by ransoming cargo vessels and fishing crews across the Caribbean. Intelligence later showed they had taken in over $40 million from rescues and insurance payouts in just 3 years. Their weapons came in trade for smuggled fuel and narcotics, funneled from ports in Venezuela and Colombia. These weren't fishermen turned raiders, they were trained gunmen with discipline and sponsors. Each speedboat carried RPG-7 launchers, PKMS, and AK-47s, sealed in plastic to protect them from the rain. Captain Reed ordered the navigator to hold course toward open water. Turning sideways would expose the hull. Stopping would make them a stationary target. On deck, crewmen secured hatches while the chief engineer increased power to maintain speed against the wind. One of the stewards described hearing metallic thuds as the first round struck the outer hull near the pool area. Reed pressed his headset again, trying to raise the Coast Guard. Only static responded. The pirates had deployed broad-spectrum jammers, an unusual move for Caribbean operators, proving this wasn't an improvised hit. It was a rehearsed takeover. Minutes passed. Lightning flashed across the sea and revealed the black shark emblem painted on the pirates' flags. The cruise ship's spotlights swept through sheets of rain, catching brief silhouettes of men preparing grappling lines. Down below, passengers were ushered from cabins to secured interior corridors. The crew double-locked heavy doors on the promenade and the dining hall. From the bridge, Reed could see figures climbing their own ropes before the first rocket hit. It exploded short of the bow, showering the deck with shrapnel, but not breaching the hull. The blast shook the ship, triggering the general alarm. Its sharp tone cut through screams and pounding rain alike. Reed's choices came down to moments. He ordered the engines to maintain full thrust and directed engineers to reroute power to communications and radar backup. The distress signal was transmitted through the emergency channel reserved for maritime crises, even as the main radios continued to jam. For 5 minutes, no confirmation came through. Every second stretched as the pirates unleashed another burst of heavy fire. Crew members crouched behind bulkheads while officers relayed calm instructions through handheld radios. Training turned panic into structure. Passengers followed orders, stayed away from windows, and waited in silence broken only by muffled gunfire from outside. When the first Coast Guard reply finally broke through the interference, it was faint but unmistakable. The USCGC Sentinel had received their coordinates and was closing in. Relief spread across the bridge, though no one slowed their pace. The pirates were still approaching, their ropes nearly touching the ship's rails, yet Reed's leadership had bought what mattered most: time. In a battle measured by seconds, his steadiness created a wall of order against chaos. The storm raged, lights flickered again, and the Sentinel's reply cut through one last burst of static. Help was coming, but survival now depended entirely on how quickly American firepower could reach them through the tempest. A rotor blade cut through the storm and forced the air down in violent sheets of rain. The MH-60J Jayhawk hovered above the deck, while tracer rounds laced the darkness below. In seconds, 8 Navy SEALs dropped from the open bay doors, landing hard on the slick steel of the Seabourn Spirit. Their ropes snapped free and vanished into the wind as the USCGC Sentinel, now in striking range, unleashed controlled fire toward the 5 pirate boats spread across the starboard side. The sea lit in brief flashes of orange as the opening volley announced the start of 10 minutes that would decide everything. Coordination came through overlapping channels. The Jayhawk pilot relayed visual updates to the Sentinel's fire control, while radar operators tracked small silhouettes darting in the waves. The helicopter banked low, its sensor pod cutting through rain fog to identify targets for the gunners below. The Sentinel's deck guns responded, alternating between .50 caliber bursts and short salvos from its Mk-38 autocannon. Each burst tore white lines through the water. The precision of the response showed months of joint drilling between the Coast Guard and Navy, one system guiding the other second by second. The first rocket screamed through the wind and missed the Sentinel's hull by less than 8 meters. Fragments slammed into the sea, sending a haze of vapor into the air. 2 more streaks followed, prompting the ship's counterfire teams to pivot instantly. Gun crews rotated barrels with practiced speed, cutting over the noise of the storm and the helicopter. SEALs on the cruise deck moved between cover points, their boots sliding across rainwater mixed with shattered glass. Gunfire from below raked the outer walls as pirates tried to blindside them from small ladders they'd hooked to the side minutes earlier. Every movement became a calculation. The Sentinel's guns created suppression corridors, narrow windows of chaos that kept pirates pinned behind their own boats. SEALs used those gaps to advance along starboard alleys, returning short, accurate bursts. A sniper team aboard the Sentinel tracked a climber halfway up a rope ladder. One controlled breath, then the single shot cut him loose before he could reach the rail. That moment broke the attacker's upper deck push. On the Jayhawk's feed, 2 of the pirate vessels were already trailing smoke, their decks shredded by crossfire. More than 1,200 rounds moved in less than 10 minutes. Cartridge casings clattered across metal as loaders rearmed under pounding rain. Flashbangs cracked on the Seabourn's promenade, where pirates had taken cover behind maintenance crates. Each detonation threw silhouettes against cabin walls, followed by precise bursts that silenced the resistance. The Sentinel's hull took over 80 distinct impacts, one rocket creating a shoulder-wide dent along the port guardrail, but its systems held. Mechanical teams below deck sealed minor leaks with polymer foam, while the gunners never broke rhythm. Through the downpour, the pirates' formation began to crumble. One speedboat burst into flame after a direct autocannon hit to its bow. Another spun out, trailing debris before sinking stern first. When suppression fire paused for reload, radio chatter filled the air. Groans of surrender transmitted over open channels. Within minutes, orders shifted from engagement to containment. 31 pirates raised their hands or jumped overboard to avoid crossfire. 10 lay still on the waves, 23 wounded and drifting toward scattered rafts. The Jayhawk stayed overhead, spotlight fixed on the wrecked boats, while SEALs cleared compartments of the liner deck by deck. At the bridge, thin static finally cleared into words. Threat neutralized. The message cut across every channel at once. Lights steadied, alarms wound down, and the noise of gunfire faded beneath the storm's hum. Not one passenger had been lost, but in the glow of the damaged consoles, officers already knew this wasn't the end. Data retrieved from seized radios hinted at funding chains far beyond the Caribbean. The rescue had exposed something larger, and for the men who fought through that storm, the real pursuit was only beginning. The battle ended, but what followed exposed something far larger than a single assault. Operation Blue Trident launched within hours, sending drones from the USS Ardent to sweep Venezuela's coast. Intelligence from captured radios revealed a network financed through offshore accounts and armed across continents. It confirmed the Black Reef faction was part of a transnational enterprise trading weapons for fuel and influence. This shifted U.S. defense policy. Isolated patrols no longer sufficed. Coordinated air-sea integration became standard. The ocean stays contested, yet those 10 minutes proved a truth. When American lives are threatened, the storm itself answers with force.